China's political advisors gather in Beijing for their annual conference. Protests against Algerian President Abdelaziz Bouteflika's re-election bid continue. And visiting Kenyan President and Ethiopian Prime Minister attend the opening of a key industrial park. Hello and welcome to CGTN. This is Africa Live and I'm Karen Roberts in Nairobi. Also coming up in the programme. The World Health Organization is alarmed by the rise in measles infections in many parts of the world. And stakeholders seek a legal framework to guide the use of recreational and medicinal marijuana in South Africa. We begin the bulletin in China, and the country's political advisors are meeting in Beijing for their annual conference. In the coming week, CPPCC members from various walks of life will submit proposals on national policies. The chairman of the CPPCC National Committee has presented his annual work report.
坚持人民政协是人民民主的重要制度。
The CPPCC is an important mechanism for democracy, so we must focus on the people as we fulfill our responsibilities. The CPPCC is an advisory body, so we must improve our capacity in practical consultation.
Well, President Xi Jinping was among the senior state and party leaders who attended the opening session at the Great Hall of the People. This year is the 70th anniversary for both the CPPCC and for the People's Republic of China. In an hour-long speech, the CPPCC chairman also announced work plans for this year, covering domestic and international issues.
We must focus on the mission of turning China into a moderately prosperous country on every front. We need to play our due part as a specialized advisory body and help the party and the government listen to our people and pool their wisdom. We will ask the National Committee members to research ways to boost cooperation in innovation under the Belt and Road Initiative and import overseas talent. We will tell China's story to the outside world well, safeguard China's sovereignty, security, and development interests, and promote the building of a community with a shared future for mankind.
Let's now head to Algeria, where protests are continuing against plans by President Abdelaziz Bouteflika to seek a fifth term. Tens of thousands of protesters are calling for Bouteflika to withdraw his candidacy, citing his poor health and allegations of corruption. Demonstrations are taking place in the capital as well as in other cities. Bouteflika, who has just turned 82, has been in power since 1999. Candidates have until Sunday to submit their paperwork. Algeria's presidential election will take place on April the 18th. Retired General Ali Ghediri currently stands as Bouteflika's toughest opponent.
I have just stepped out of the Constitutional Council President's office, having completed all the procedures according to the Constitution.
Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta is in Ethiopia on an official visit. Together with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, he officiated the opening of the Chinese-built Debre Birhan Industrial Park, which sits on 1,100 hectares of land north of the capital, Addis Ababa. The park specializes in textiles and garment making and will soon incorporate agro-processing. The Ethiopian Prime Minister said the park is yet another testimony to Ethiopia's efforts towards industrialization and prosperity. President Uhuru Kenyatta said Ethiopia's industrial development was impressive and that the parks were providing thousands of jobs.
This industry park at Debre Birhan will and should spark a new light of industry development for the rest of the country. My message for you is to welcome all investors with the non-Ethiopian hospitality and help them achieve their goals. Ethiopia is enjoying the largest number of foreign investors at the moment, and we must make sure we make the best of this opportunity.
I want to take this opportunity also to congratulate my brother for the leadership that he has shown. This is the second industrial park that I have seen in the space of 2 days on the inauguration of this wonderful project that is bound to create many thousands of jobs for the people of this area.
To Nigeria now, where crude exports through Nembe pipeline have been suspended. Authorities shut down the pipeline for repair after an explosion on Friday. Nembe is a key pipeline in transporting crude oil from Nigeria to the global market. CGTN's Ceretto has more.
The Nembe Creek trunk line is a 97-kilometer pipeline. It carries an average 150,000 barrels of crude oil per day. Having been put out of use now, it will have an adverse effect on the country's crude oil export. ITO Exploration Limited, the Nigerian company operating it, has confirmed the explosion but said no life was lost. Earlier reports suggested scores could have been killed, more than 50 people missing. The fire burnt throughout Friday, but it was put out the following day. The pipeline remains shut, and that will have a direct impact on Nigeria's crude oil export volumes. The cause of the fire was not readily established, but crude oil theft, sabotage, and aging pipelines are some of the reasons known for fire outbreaks along pipelines in Nigeria's oil-rich Niger Delta. Thousands of barrels of crude oil was spilled after the explosion. The incident adds to an existing oil spillage that has devastated vast territories in the Niger Delta. Kelechi Emekalam, CGTN, Abuja, Nigeria.
Tunisia has hosted a regional summit on food security in the Arab Maghreb Union. Ministers from 5 member states focused on improving food security, especially in Libya. Experts also outlined the difficulties in guaranteeing food supply to millions of people, as CGTN's Adnan Chawashi now reports.
The capital city Tunis hosted the 18th session of the Maghreb Ministerial Committee on Food Security. Ministers and officials from Algeria, Morocco, Libya, Mauritania and Tunisia attended the high-level meeting.
This is the most successful meeting of ministers from the 5 Maghreb countries. The Maghreb region is facing unprecedented environmental, economic and security challenges which could affect food security. Food security and sustainability are among our priorities as decision makers.
The Tunisian Minister of Agriculture and his Libyan counterpart agreed on building cooperation in plant and seed production and distribution by private operators and making Tunisian experts available to the Libyan side in the control and development of production techniques.
We agreed on the genetic improvement of livestock through creating genetic improvement programs, artificial insemination, sharing expertise, and drawing on the Tunisian experience in livestock breeding. The agreement also provides for cooperation in intensification of forage crops and techniques of fodder storage.
Concerning forests and pastures, Maghreb Union ministers agreed on establishing common programs to share expertise on forest and pastoral seeds, fitting out pastures, combating desertification, and sharing experience in techniques to combat sand encroachment.
We will share knowledge on forest trees and shrubs resisting drought and salinity, as well as expertise in monitoring the emergence and spread of the agricultural diseases. We will organize training sessions specializing in water management to benefit from the Tunisian experience in storing and management of surface water and mountain lakes.
According to experts, the concept of food security has evolved. Initially, it focused mainly on availability of food and on food production. Then it was expanded to include the accessibility to food and its utilization.
According to the Tunisian authorities, the 5 ministers of agriculture in the Maghreb region stated their commitment to improve their agricultural cooperation through easing administrative procedures and reviewing and updating the legal framework governing trade between their countries. Adnan Chawashi, CGTN, Tunis.
Time now for us to take a quick break. Here's what's still ahead in the program. The World Health Organization is alarmed by the rise rise in measles infections in many parts of the world. And stakeholders seek a legal framework to guide the use of recreational and medicinal marijuana in South Africa.
How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Let's now head to Madagascar, where an outbreak of measles has killed at least 1,000 people since October last year. Most of those affected are children, and the World Health Organization is warning that unless drastic steps are taken, the disease will pose a great danger globally.
In one of the wards of Diego Suarez Military Hospital in Antananarivo, Bola Zafi nurses her grandchild. The journey to the hospital was not easy as measles ravaged the young child.
We had porters and companions as we walked to the main road, far from our home. We continued on foot until we reached the hospital. We needed a helping hand to carry the child because we also had luggage as well.
She's one of the lucky few who have managed to get medical attention. An outbreak of measles has left over 1,000 people dead in Madagascar since last year, with children and young adults accounting for the highest number. The startling figures could be a wake-up call for many in Madagascar who consider measles to be a common disease.
Measles has always been considered a common disease. People use traditional remedies to treat the disease. The population has somewhat neglected the dangers of measles, and they only come to hospital when it is at a really complicated stage.
It is not just Madagascar that is at risk of a major measles outbreak. According to the World Health Organization, infection cases rose by 50% globally in 2018, with 136,000 deaths reported. Major economies have not been spared either. Countries such as France, Brazil, and Ukraine registered a spike in the spread of the highly infectious disease. Other countries at risk include Serbia, Albania, Liberia, Georgia, Yemen, Montenegro, and Greece. The World Health Organization and UNICEF say misinformation is a great concern since the measles vaccine is easily affordable and available. Lack of proper nourishment is also aiding in the spread of the disease.
Malnutrition paves the way for measles, and the more severe cases of measles are often reported in children who are malnourished.
The disease is characterized by rashes on the body and a high fever. It causes blindness and inflammation of the brain. Beryl Oro, CGTN.
March the 3rd marks World Hearing Day, and this year's theme is Check Your Hearing. Many experts, health organizations and those with hearing impairments are working to raise awareness about hearing loss. CGTN's Zheng Yibing has more.
Bliss and relaxation. Some of the feelings a good song can easily conjure. But what if the music lasts for hours?
I work for over 10 hours a day and use headphones and stereo for 6 to 7 hours. I have to rest occasionally, otherwise my ears can't take it.
Besides us, band members like to play at a maximum volume. The live music is captivating, but it's easy to forget the harm that loud music can cause.
It's common for musicians to experience some degree of hearing loss, but more serious cases happen too. Hearing loss caused by excessive use of headphones or other sound equipment is very common for musicians. It's also not rare for our daily users. Whether for fashion or convenience, listening to loud music on audio devices has become a part of modern life. But according to the WHO, the practice has put more than 1 billion people around the world aged 12 to 35 at risk of losing their hearing. Many know the dangers, but for some, it remains the habit.
I am not a heavy user, but I use headphones every day when I take subway or listen to the stereo when I drive.
I use my cell phone for 4 to 5 hours a day, and half of the time I will listen to music with headphones and turn the volume to 50%.
It's easy to gradually increase the volume unconsciously. Oftentimes, users fail to realize they are listening to audio at unsafe levels until serious hearing problems suddenly occur.
I work long hours with noises, sometimes with headphones, and this suddenly caused a tinnitus. I could not hear others clearly and could not sleep well at night because of it.
I didn't have a very good sense to protect my hearing. I always took it for granted that it would be just fine.
Whether congenital or acquired, loss of hearing is usually irreversible. That's why doctors say it's an issue that deserves our utmost attention.
In our daily life, the volume of electric equipment like televisions and headphones should be turned down, and noise from concerts, firecrackers, and vehicles has to be limited. Once the hearing loss occurs, it's already too late.
Noise is not the only cause of acquired hearing loss. Dr. Young says infections, drug abuse, and diseases can all play a role as well. That's why prevention is paramount.
Early prevention, early identification, and early intervention. If everyone could do these things, hearing loss and its harms could be kept to a minimum.
Of course, this applies to every one of us. And like many things in life, moderation is key to making the world sound all the more beautiful. Zheng Yibing, CGTN, Beijing.
In South Africa, calls are growing for a legal framework for the production and consumption of cannabis. Many distributors, small businesses and non-governmental organizations are meeting at the Grow Up Sandton Expo in Johannesburg. The three-day event showcases the latest in recreational and medicinal products. It's also looking at how the cannabis industry can be made fully commercial. CGTN's Julie Sher reports.
South Africans can grow their own cannabis and smoke it, but the use of marijuana-based products is still illegal. Campaigners at this expo are showcasing the latest in recreational and medical offerings from the industry.
We are going to take our proposals for what we want the regulations to look like, and we are going to present those to Parliament. We have spent many years formulating regulations that are enforceable, that are easy, that are not expensive, and that is basically a co-op model. A co-op model where farmers can belong to the co-op just the way that millie farmers or wheat farmers belong to the agricultural co-op.
There needs to be regulation because product is given to the public. The public is consuming product. They need to know that the product is safe, that it is, that what's in the bottle is stated on the outside of the label, and that they're not being hoodwinked.
It's been less than a year since the private use of cannabis has been made legal in South Africa. Exhibitors at this expo in Johannesburg say interest in the health benefits of the herb has grown phenomenally.
You're getting people that would never have talked about cannabis before, ever, to now openly want to discuss it. How can it help me? How can it help my father, my mother, my sister, my brother, or whatever the case can be?
The main reason people use it for is things like pain, sleep, anxiety. If you just look around here, this wouldn't have happened 2 years ago. Certainly the amount of inquiries that one gets, both on the internet as well as phone calls, people asking about hemp, asking about cannabis. Certainly there's a huge amount of increased attention and requests for information, definitely.
The industry is in limbo until policy is put in place, but it's likely to be put on the back burner until after South Africa's national elections in May this year. Julie Shar, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Still in South Africa, the Ceretto Gospel Choir recently won the Grammy for Best World Music Album. The group was recognized for the album Freedom Song, a 12-track tribute to Nelson Mandela released to mark the 100th year of Madiba's birth.
The announcement of the Grammy Awards sparked an explosion of excitement across South Africa.
When he said Soweto, we go ahead and we jumped out. Like it took long, like and we jumped out, and the very humbling part is that when everybody gets to celebrate you and they stand up and they applaud you, that was amazing.
The Freedom Song album under the choir its third Grammy in its 17-year existence, in addition to an Emmy and a debut album called Voices of Heaven, which reached #1 on Billboard's World Music chart.
Freedom album, it was a celebration of Nelson Mandela and celebration of the unsung and fallen heroes. So it was in that concept. I chose songs that spoke about Mandela. I chose songs that spoke about Stephen Biko. I chose songs that spoke about our late musicians like Amir Makeba, who was an activist as well.
The Freedom Song album gives a modern twist to so-called struggle songs rooted in South Africa's apartheid past. And the group went back to Soweto, the southeast township on the edge of Johannesburg, known worldwide as a symbol of resistance, to find its inspiration.
It was the 100th centenary of Nelson Mandela. So everyone in the world actually was caught an attention in a way that South Africa is celebrating something very special. So that's where the idea started. That's where we had to go back to Soweto and find out what happened back in the days and bring it to the world. So yeah, it was a celebration.
Much of the choir's captivating sound is composed and arranged in indigenous South African languages, including Zulu, Xhosa, and even Afrikaans. Yet some of the biggest audiences are in Europe and America.
Our signature sound, it's something simple. It's something that it's raw. It's something that it's proudly South African. It's something that it comes from the streets of Soweto. It's something that it's not like most of our singers are not musically trained. But what we do is that we learn by ear.
And over time, the group's sound has evolved but maintained the rich story that has led to a surge in its popularity, sustaining an apparent insatiable global demand for its performances. Beryl Oro, CGTN.